Time for Money Mondays with Peter Fraser, certified financial planner with Credential, Q-Trade Securities, and the Alterna Wealth Management Group here in Ottawa. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, Rob.
And you're going macro today. You kind of want to look at where we are with the markets and inflation and the economy and what that could mean for our financial plans. So what do you have in mind?
Little bit of a 50,000-foot level. I thought I took a look at the March 2020 third issue of Desjardins Economic and Financial Outlook, and I thought that summary actually fairly reflected some of my own opinions about where we are these days, where we might be going, and of course the impacts that we're enduring on things like planning and portfolios. And Desjardins calls their report sunny side up in the medium term. And I thought we could spend a couple of minutes talking about the key takeaways.
Okay.
Point number one, of course, is that the short order economic picture is likely not very tasty, at least not for a while yet. Presenting as it does, quite a bit of uncertainty still for us, and that certainty comes from that bitter dose of medicine that's as equally as unpleasant as the disease it's trying to cure. And we're talking about the increased interest rates that are presently being used to combat increased inflation. And that inflation punch that we've all taken has really brought out the painful chemotherapy equivalent of the tools they use to rein in inflation and get back to keeping it low, and that's these high interest rates. Of course, we're all experiencing the rapid price jump of almost everything: basic shelter, food, rising mortgage costs. These things, of course, are squeezing the spending power of most of us. And it also impacts our portfolios and the plans. So Bank of Canada, of course, enter the Bank of Canada and their mandate to control this stuff. And the mandate's a crucial component in setting up the conditions for a return to robust and stable growth. But they're talking about that being in the medium term. So, Rob, the Bank of Canada is being successful at this is very important, and that's kind of a key point that I thought when we talked about this one this morning. But the financial plans that we're making at a personal level, obviously this matters because low and stable inflation is a key part of long-term planning at that level. And it seems counterintuitive and even hard to accept that, say, central banks somehow need to put the brakes on the economy in order to bring inflation down. But that inflation beast lives to gobble up our purchasing power, and that's not good. So kind of got to go through something really bitter to create something much better, and that's what we're enduring. So that was point number one. I thought that was true. And the second one is that portfolios and financial plans would arguably be worse off if central banks simply sat on their hands and did nothing to get inflation under control. And I invite listeners to kind of test this for themselves. Just hike the expected inflation rate in your financial plan from, the standard 2% or so, and put in today's 6%. And you won't like the impact you see, for sure. And it basically results in less to live on and for a lot fewer years. So that's not good. And that really hits home for all of us. The third point, I think, is always important to remember that ultimately in an environment like this, interest rates are going to rise with or without central bank intervention. And that's simply because the savers, the lenders, they demand higher interest rates to keep their own plans and purchasing power intact. So we still get hurt by inflation if things are just kind of left to their own devices. And the medicine is bitter, Rob, that's for sure. But I think the general consensus is that the path that we're on should lead to better economic and financial health sometime in the medium term, and that's why these guys have called it sunny side up in the medium term. But I thought, because we're here to help, that maybe we've got a couple of points that will help folks endure the times. A good mantra to keep recalling that we're in for short-term pain for long-term gain. I think that, you want to keep an eye on your asset mix in your portfolio. You and I have talked about this before, but it can be adjusted as needed. I think you want to review your debt load in times like this and look for ways to reduce interest costs. Another good one is just take a pair of tweezers to your personal budget. Pick out the expenses that you can avoid or defer to another time. And, of course, make sure you're minimizing your taxes. That is always a big bite for most of us. And so vacuum the couch cushions for every available nickel of deductions and credits, but find the ones that are available to you. They've never probably been more needed. So, in a little bit of more endurance and we'll be out on the other side. And that's today's Money Monday from my end, Rob.
Excellent. For more information on this, or if you have any questions, would like to speak with Peter, reach out to Peter at Money Mondays at Alterna.ca. Thanks for this week, Peter.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, great stuff from the Alterna Wealth Management Group here in Ottawa.